appreciating the fall-esque weather that we're having this week. I even got to the point yesterday where I thought, man, I know it's the end of August, but I need to put out some fall decorations already. So I did, a few of them, not too many, but a few. This morning I have a couple of stories I want to share with you, and before we get into them, let's go to God in prayer. Gracious God, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful, beautiful weather that you have blessed us with. Lord, thank you for all the blessings that you bestow upon us, our friends, our family. Lord, the possessions that you have let us have at this time in our lives. Lord, this morning, as we look at the message that you have prepared, I ask that you open our hearts, that you open our minds. Lord, I ask most of all that every word from my mouth this morning is not mine, but it is yours. In Jesus' holy name, amen. So I want to share a couple of fun stories with you. Some, you may put whatever it is that you're thinking of in that position. Does anybody in here remember the New Kids on the Block? Beth, I knew that was like, now y'all might remember because your girls were about New Kids on the Block age. Okay, all right. So New Kids on the Block, when I was in middle school, early high school, they were the big boy bands, okay? They've made a comeback recently. But they were the thing. All the preteen magazines had posters of all the members of New Kids on the Block. All the girls in the hallway, if you opened up their locker doors, they were plastered with all the posters from these magazines. They talked about it in the hallways. They talked about it when the teacher wasn't looking in class. We were so excited about this boy band, right? And we wanted to know as much as we could. So all of these magazines published things like, what's their eye color? What's their favorite food? What's their favorite thing to wear? What's their favorite TV show? What's their favorite movie? And of course, everybody swooned over their favorites in the band and then what his favorites were. They were like, oh, well, he likes pizza, so I love pizza. Or he has blue eyes, so I need contacts because I want blue eyes. It was crazy. But when we're really loving something, when we're really looking for something, when we're really seeking, searching for it, we dig up as much information on whatever that topic is as we possibly can. I mean, we become like virtual stalkers almost of whatever it is that becomes our most favorite thing at this time. We have to know every intimate detail about their life. Everything. Aren't we the same way when we first fall in love? When you first fall in love with somebody, you're just like, oh, I didn't like Italian before, but I do now. It's my favorite food. You weren't into sports, but now everybody follows UK basketball. You're trying to impress this person because you love what they love. You're looking for that, right? We're seeking earnestly to find out every minute detail, everything about their family history, all the relationships, everything, because we want to know everything about this person that we are in love with. And then when you find out some of those details, you're kind of, but you're still in love with that person. My second illustration for you this morning. I was, I think 13. I had been begging my parents, y'all know what that's like when your kids beg you, right? Begging my parents for a new stereo for my bedroom. Because we weren't allowed TVs in our room or gaming systems or anything like that growing up. But I could have a radio. And I wanted a really awesome stereo that I could play my cassette tapes in. I was so excited and I was begging for it. You know, y'all remember that Sears Roebuck Wish catalog that was like this thick? I couldn't wait for that to come in the mail. And we'd sit and pore over the pages going, oh, look at all these amazing things. I wanted a stereo system so bad I could taste it. It was just insane. And I knew where my mom hid Christmas presents. So here I was, 13. I'd been begging for this new stereo system. And I started snooping through the house one day when my mom wasn't home. So I thought, oh, I just know that's what they're going to give me. I just know that's what they're going to give me. So I started looking through all the closets, looking behind the stuff where my mom normally hid things. And there it was. Bottom of my dad's closet. This amazing stereo system. I was like overjoyed. I was elated. I was just like, yes! The stereo I've been begging for! I'm so excited! So then when it came time to actually give me the gift, my mother being the creative sort, she did this little treasure hunt thing around the house, right? She hid one card here, and it had all these clues in it, and I had to follow it to the next card, to the next card, to the next card, till finally I got to the present. So guess what happened when I finally got to the present? I probably wasn't as excited as my mom thought I should be, because I already knew. But does that mean I knew every intimate detail about it? No. I didn't know all the little buttons and knobs. I didn't know how everything worked. There was all this really cool things, like you could do the bass and the treble. I'd never had a radio where you could do that before, and I was like, ooh, what do these things do? All these little knobs on this radio. I was so excited. I was still excited. Because this was something I had really asked for, something I really, really wanted. When we seek something earnestly, when we look for something with our whole heart, we can't help but be overjoyed, whether or not we found it or not. We can't help but be excited because this is something that we had been begging for. This is something we had truly been looking for. Psalm 63, if you would turn there with me. Psalm 63. This is a psalm of David, and it tells us this is when he was in the wilderness of Judah. Now, to give you a little background before we read this psalm, this is when David was running from his son Absalom, who had overthrown and tried to claim the throne for himself. And so David took his people and fled from Jerusalem so as not to be in a fight with Absalom. So David is well advanced in age at this point in time. But I want you to listen to what David says here in the first 4 verses. Oh God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land where there is no water. So I have looked upon you in the sanctuary, beholding your power and glory, because your steadfast love is better than life. My lips will praise you. So I will bless you as long as I live. In your name, I will lift up my hands. David, who, as I said, is well advanced in years at this time, was never able to build the temple for God. He did still worship in the tabernacle. He still got to witness God there in the tent of meetings. In the sanctuary, he beheld the power and the glory and God's love. But he still earnestly sought him. Even though David knew who God was from a young boy. You all remember the story. The ruddy youth that took on Goliath. He knew who God was even back then, but he still, even at this age, earnestly sought everything that God was. Look at the words that he used in this first verse. Sometimes I think David's a little overly dramatic, but maybe it's because we don't understand the Hebraic poetry. He says, my soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land where there is no water. His soul thirsts for God. His flesh faints for God. He earnestly sought God with everything that he was. What is the greatest commandment that Jesus gave us? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind and strength. David sought God in this manner. Whether he was following God or not, we all know the story of David. He messed up. There were some things that he did that were not okay. And yet David is the only man in the Bible that God says is after his own heart. And I believe that is because David sought God with every fiber of his being, every ounce of who he was. He looked for, he sought for God. In Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, it tells us, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. You and I have to run this race of endurance. Sometimes we get really excited and we go looking and we find it in the closet and we're like, oh, look what I found. How amazing is it? But it still doesn't lose that excitement. Even if I already know, there's so much more that I don't know. I don't understand all the buttons and the knobs and the little things that can do and what it does when you go up this way and what it does when you go down this way. There's so much that is in here that we still do not know. Doesn't matter if you knew God from a young age or not. There's so much. And we're supposed to seek God with everything that we are. Romans 12, 1 and 2, Paul says, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable, perfect. Every day, we are supposed to be seeking God earnestly with everything we are, with our heart, with our mind, with our soul, with our strength. We should be able to say, God, my soul thirsts for you. My soul thirsts for you and everything that you are and everything that you mean to me in my life. Now, does that mean that we're going to be perfect at this every step of every day? No. David wasn't. I know I certainly have not been. There are days that I think at the end of the day, God, did I even take 5 minutes today? Or was I just so busy being busy that I just whoop right over top of everything? And now that I'm sitting down here at night, I'm going, hold up. Did I really seek you today? Or was I just doing what I wanted to do because that's what I wanted to do? Sure, I have days like that. We all have days like that. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't stop seeking earnestly God. Just like David sought God. How do we seek God? Paul tells us right here in Romans. Present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Not being conformed by this world, but being transformed by the renewal of your mind. How do we renew our minds? Study. Open the book and read. We like to make it really complicated. I don't know, us humans are really good at doing that. We like to make everything complicated. It's really simple. You just go, oh, that's what it says. So easy. And yet so many times we don't renew our minds. So many times we just gloss on over. We think we have to have some great theological debate and great theological study with words that are, this long that nobody can really understand anyway unless you're some crazy theologian. Marcus, love you. We overcomplicate it. Seeking God means getting on your knees in prayer. It means offering up your life to Him. Say, God, use me in whatever way you deem necessary today. Let not the words from my mouth be mine, but let you use my vocal cords to proclaim your word to everyone that I touch today. Lord, let not my thoughts be my own. Let them be centered on you. So that in everything that I do today, you are my focus. Every conversation I have today, you are my focus. It's really easy. Seek God with all you are. Let your soul thirst and seek earnestly the God that is in front of you, behind you, beside you. Seek Him with your mind, your soul, your heart, and your strength. Let us be refreshed in His word. As we sing 144, Glory to His name, if anyone needs prayer this morning, please come.